players.
On your proud home of 49ers football. Touchdown! KNBR, the sports leader. Your faithful fix with your host Larry Krueger begins now.
And we're off and rolling. Welcome to Niners. Well, I was going to say Niners Nightly. Take two. Welcome to 49er Forecast. Larry Krueger with you on a beautiful Saturday. Hope everybody's enjoying what is just glorious fall Northern California weather as we go from the heat to the cool. And a beautiful day here in the creek, about 70, 75 degrees. The calm before the storm. That's right. Niners and Jaguars go in week 4 tomorrow at Levi's. And I will be there with Adam Copeland and Tracy Sandler and Todd Husak and Tim Webb as we bring you 49er pre and post. And it should be a hell of a day. And the 49ers are going to try to run their record to 4-0. How about that? 4-0. I think we'd all take 4-0 out of the chute. All right. So what do we do on 49er Forecast? Well, we forecast what's coming up on Sunday, right? We look ahead to the game in every way imaginable. From the matchup to, if you have fantasy questions, feel free, bang the number, 808 KNBR. We can take some of your calls. The great Jordan Elliott's going to join us like he did last week. I really enjoyed Jordan Elliott. He's going to join us in about 20 minutes or so from NBC Sports Bay Area, but we definitely can open up the phone lines. 808 KNBR is the phone number. How do you feel about the 3-0 49ers? How do you feel? How do you feel about it? You feel good? Are you not feeling good? I mean, there's reasons for both, right? There's reasons to feel good. There's reasons to have a little bit of, well, maybe the word is trepidation. You say, well, wait a second. Why? They're 3-0. Why would you have any anxiety at all? They're 3-0. They're one of 6 3-0 football teams. And yeah, they're 3-0. They're 3-0 out of the chute. But a lot of the goals of the offseason, the areas where they wanted to improve, I don't know if they've really improved. Like they really badly wanted to improve the special teams from last year. And here we are. We're 3 weeks in. The 49ers are giving up the worst starting field position of any team in the entire league. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. The average starting position for Niner opponents through 3 games is the 33.8-yard line. That's the worst in the league. Dead last. And that's just one area of special teams. But the 49ers, despite Eddie Pinheiro, who's been, Eddie, he's our guy. He's talking trash to the Cardinals. He's breaking it down in the locker room. And, you got to love Eddie Pinheiro, especially now that he's made a bunch of kicks. But the Niners are 28th in special teams DVOA. I thought Brant Boyer was going to come in and change all that. I thought the problem was Hightower. I thought the problem was Schneider. I thought they just need to get the right coordinator in there. And so far, that's not been the case. They're 28th in special teams, DVOA, and they're giving up the worst starting field position in the league. So special teams continues to be a major problem. The other major problem of the offseason is, man, are the Niners going to invest in their offensive line? Oh, their offensive line this, their offensive line that. I actually thought maybe they'd improve their offensive line a little bit. But through 3 games, they can't run. I mean, they cannot run. They get the best running back in football, and they have yet to score a rushing touchdown. The only team in pro football, by the way, that's yet to score a rushing touchdown are your 3-0 San Francisco 49ers. So what's the deal? Why can't they run? Christian McCaffrey is the best running back in football, I was told. Jake Brendel is their best center, I was told. Why can't you run? Is Dom Pooney regressed that much? Is Connor Colby that bad? Is Brendel that bad? I mean, what's going on with their offensive line? Chris Foerster is supposed to be a very good offensive line coach. The numbers just don't show that this line's good. And I don't know about you can throw out whatever PFF grades say they are good, because run block win rate, which is probably the number one run blocking stat there is, the 49ers are 29th in run block win rate. The other really, I think, solid rushing statistical category is stuffed run percentage. What percentage of your runs are just getting stuffed? The Niners are 31st in the NFL in stuffed run percentage. So they just can't run, and they have a great back. So something's got to give. And it's not just like, well, man, the O-line's an awesome pass blocking line and just their pressure rate allowed is third, but that's a lot about Brock Purdy's escapability and Mac Jones's ability to just kind of throw the ball away. Their pass block win rate, which is also a very, very key stat for offensive line, the Niners are 22nd. So their 22nd pass block win rate, their 29th run block win rate, their 31st stuffed run percentage. Do you see what we're talking about there? Greg Cosell weighed in on the Niners this week, and he said, man, their offensive line is just not moving people. They're not moving anybody. And Greg says it's really showing up in tight quarters in the red zone. And sure enough, he's right. Through 3 games, Christian McCaffrey, this is probably the stat of stats. Christian McCaffrey in 3 games has 13 carries in the red zone for a combined 7 yards. Ouch. Ouch. I mean, less than a half a yard a carry in the red zone in 3 games for CMC. I asked Kubiak about this yesterday, and he was like, hey, we're close. We're close. We're getting close. It's almost there. It's about to pop. So we'll see. We're going to find out against Jacksonville how good can the Niners run the ball in the red zone. And it's like, it's going to be really hard to win the Super Bowl this year without Nick Bosa, clearly. But it's really going to be hard if there are teams that are dominant in the red zone and you're far from dominant. And I bring it up because Philadelphia, I looked at their red zone numbers. They're the defending Super Bowl champion. The road to the Super Bowl in the NFC probably rolls through Lincoln Financial. Philly is 8 for 8 in red zone scoring this year. 8 for 8. 8 trips Philly's offense has had to the red zone. 8 times they've scored touchdowns. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. Where do the Niners rank? 3rd lowest in the NFL in points per red zone trip. 3rd worst red zone offense in the league, trying to knock off the Philadelphia Eagles, who have the best red zone offense in the league. So, man, that's going to be that's got to change. Somehow they're going to have to be better running the ball in the red zone if they want to have success. Now, the big question, there's a couple big questions this week. What is the impact of not having Nick Bosa? We talked to Robert Saleh this week, and I asked Saleh, what are you going to do differently? I mean, how's things change? And without Bosa, and his point was just kind of like, hey, look, we got a lot of good things going on up front, and the Niners do. The Niners have defensively have been a revelation, absolute revelation defensively. Where do they sit? The Niners right now are 4th in total defense, giving up 265 yards a game. They're 15th against the run. They're 5th against the pass. So, points allowed per game, though, which is, there are some, my NFL friends say, dude, don't ever look at yards. He's like, we play to win the game. We play for points. So always look at points. Don't look at yards. I mean, the Niners last year had a top 10 defense in yards, but when it came to points, they were bottom 3rd. So they were just disastrous in the red zone. This year, they're 3rd in points allowed, 4th in yards, 3rd in points. So last year was unbelievable. They were 9th in yards and like 24th in points because they were so bad in the red zone. This year, they're 3rd in points allowed, 4th in yards allowed. 3rd in points allowed? I mean, right there, you go, Robert Saleh. Way to go, bro. 3rd in points allowed? I mean, that's really, really good. So what do they do without Nick Bosa? And when we asked Saleh about it, he was like, we got a lot of good things going on. We don't want to change everything. We don't want to like move everybody everywhere and change the whole thing. So I think what they're looking to do is, and now they've probably got a plan this week, and then they got a plan for a couple weeks from now. They probably got a plan for the whole year. But I think the plan initially is to promote Sam Aquinu from his, special teams role and backup defensive end role to Bosa's, he's the new Bosa. Sam O is going to start for Bosa. I think that's going to be the plan. And then what they did was they have 2 guys on the practice squad, Bradley Beal Jr. and Trevis Gibson. Now, on the surface, you would say, oh, yeah, they're going to promote Trevis Gibson. Gibson's a way more accomplished player. He had a 7.5 sack season not that long ago. He's in his prime. He would be the guy, 9 times out of 10. But what they're really looking to promote off the practice squad is a special teamer. And that's where Robert Beal comes in, because Beal will play the 30-plus snaps that Aquinu played on special teams, freeing up Aquinu to slide over into Bosa's spot. And I think the desire of Saleh is to leave Yatir Gross-Matos and Mikael Williams inside and don't touch them. Don't touch them. As far as, Mikael's playing outside on 1st and 2nd down. But now, on 3rd downs, they've got a great thing going with their turbo package with, Bosa and Huff off the edges. That's what it's been. And then, of course, Mikael and YGM inside. And it's worked out, beautifully, absolutely beautifully. It looks great. They've really put a lot of heat. They can move. These offensive guards are just absolutely shaking in their boots when they see an athlete like Mikael Williams or Yatir Gross-Matos, and then a big wide split and tons of room in there. Those guys, those offensive linemen, their advantage is let's keep everything in tight quarters. When you put speed on the edges like Huff and Bosa together, it's creating a lot bigger gaps inside, and good luck trying to block Mikael Williams if you're kind of a stout 310-pound guard, but you have to, defend a space that's, 8 yards wide. Good luck. Good luck. He's way more athletic than you. He's going to get by you pretty much at will, and that's what we're seeing. So I don't think they're going to change up too much initially. I think it's going to be Sam O, special teams reps, go to Beal, who's a very good special teamer, and then Sam O plays Bosa's spot, and everybody else just does the same thing, and hopefully the results are similar. It's probably, wishful thinking. As far as last week, what we saw was against Arizona, the Niners' pressure rate dipped when Bosa was on the field. Their pressure rate was 45%. When Bosa went off the field, their pressure rate fell from 45% to 28%. So if you look at Robert Saleh in the past, when he hasn't had Bosa, he blitzes about 20% of the time. I think this year I was looking at the numbers after 3 games. He's at like 21% blitz, so right on line with what he's done in the past. As far as with the Niners. Now, at times with the Niners, he blitzed even less than that, but his talent level is different than it was in 2019. So he's blitzing about 20 to 21% without, with Nick. Without Nick, in the past, we've seen him blitz over 30% of the time. In 2020, we saw him blitz nearly 35% of the time. So expect the blitz numbers to go up. I don't think there's any question about that. They're going to have to blitz more. And then, as far as long-range plans, short-range plans, I think the short-range plan is get by with Sam Huff and Bryce Huff and Sam Aquinu. Promote Robert Beal, elevate him from the practice squad. They added William Bradley King to the practice squad. He's got a nice little pass rushing knack. You still have Trevis Gibson there, who, as I said, very solid. Sam O played 39 snaps on special teams, so Beal now replaces him there and takes those 39 special teams reps from Sam O, goes to Beal. And Beal's a really good special teamer. He's probably one of the most dominant athletes on the field. He's 6'4", 260. He runs in the 4.4s. Now, it has not been able to translate to pass rush and sacks. But as a special teamer, he's a beast. So they maybe even upgrade from Samo on special teams. Obviously, Samo going from Bosa to Samo is not an upgrade at defensive end. Now, that's the short-term plan. Talked to Matt Barrows this week, and Barrows says he thinks it's realistic to think that the 49ers could trade for Trey Hendrickson. You know, the Bengals' 30-year-old pass rusher who I think has a $16 million guaranteed deal this year, set to be a free agent at the end of the year, held out. They didn't really work out a long-term deal, so he's probably going to be traded. Interestingly enough, Guy Haberman sat down this week with Daniel Jeremiah, who normally is all over this stuff. Jeremiah was suggesting that Trey Hendrickson could be had for a third-round draft choice and a day 3 pick. Now, love Jeremiah, love Guy, and I think they're very credible. But come on, that's crazy. If you got Trey Hendrickson, and if the Bengals just said we're not going to do anything with Trey Hendrickson, we're just going to let him sit for the end of the year, he would walk in free agency at the end of the year. They would get a third-round compensatory selection. So, I mean, they're not taking lower than a third. But you're telling me that a guy who's got 17 plus sacks in each of the last 2 years is going for a third-round pick and a fifth-round pick? I mean, then it's just a matter of, are they going to have a lottery? Because every team in football that has a need would say, here's my third and my fifth for Trey Hendrickson. So I don't know if that price tag is right. That price tag seems a little low. Now, I'm not saying that it would cost the Niners their first-round pick. I don't think the 49ers would be willing to give up their first-round pick for Trey Hendrickson. I think that first-round pick is very much earmarked for Trent Williams' replacement in the next draft. And I've been already studying the Auburn tackle, the Utah tackles, the Alabama tackle. I mean, it's a decent tackle group this year. So I think the first-round pick is not even on the table. Even if that was the deal, I think they'll pass. Matt did a ranking of from the most likely to the least likely of the veteran edge options that he thought the Niners would go with. He has Arden Key as the number one, potentially the number one option, which makes a lot of sense because the Niners have this propensity to add players they've had in the past. It seems like they really care a lot about their culture, especially post Devondre Campbell, where he just imploded on them. They probably just didn't know him well enough, didn't realize what kind of, how he would react to, Dre Greenlaw coming back, and that whole thing went south. So I just think that this year, when they've brought in guys, they've brought in Malik Turner, they've brought in Bourne, they've brought in, guys that they've had in the past that they know. Trying to fill holes. And Maddie's suggesting that maybe they'll do the same with Arden Key being the number one option trade-wise. He's in Tennessee. I mean, I think you get Arden Key for very little, and he definitely played a nice little role inside and outside. He gives you kind of a little versatile pass rusher. I don't know if he's the most dangerous edge rusher I've ever seen, but he can line up out there. You can line him up at tackle and stunt him outside if you want. He can play those games up front. He's really good at playing those twists and stunt games up front. So maybe Arden Key. So he's got Arden Key as his top option. Not that it's Matt's first choice, but he just thinks what's the most likely. Arden Key was his guess there. Then Bradley Chubb, who's in Miami, I believe. Opposite Jalen Phillips, who wouldn't be a bad candidate in his own right. He's got Carl Granderson, who's also playing, with the former Cal Bear Cam Jordan. They're manning the defensive ends. I think Carl Granderson would be a phenomenal choice. I just think he's playing at a really high level, and obviously he's on a Saints team that's horrible. The New York Giants aren't going anywhere, most likely, though they are starting Jackson Dart this weekend against the Chargers. We'll see if it jumpstarts their season. But they've got Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns. Wouldn't mind either one of those guys. I mean, Brian Burns is a star. Thibodeau is a 24-year-old edge rusher who is tremendous at Oregon. Very, very talented. Then there's Derek. He's got Derek Barnett from the Houston Texans. Interesting. Texans Texans, it's now or never for the Texans. They're 0-3. They play the Titans this weekend. They go to 0-4, and it's good night. Good night. So Derek Barnett is an interesting name. I would say the Jets are an interesting team just because, the Niners and Jets the Niners have picked up so many Jets players. It's obvious that they're consulting with Robert Saleh every time there's an opening, and Saleh's got his favorites. Now the Jets have, first of all, the Jets are going nowhere. The Jets are the Jets. They have Michael Clemens, who's a big 270-pound, defensive end. He was really good against the run at Texas A&M. In a lot of ways, body type, he's very similar to a Nick Bosa. I mean, he's not Nick Bosa, but he's very similar body type. They also have Jermaine Johnson, who's coming off an Achilles tear, I believe, from last year, but he's healthy this year and seemingly playing pretty well. And then they have Will McDonald IV, would be the guy that I would try to get. Now, he's probably more expensive than those guys. You might be able to get Clemens or Jermaine Johnson for a day 3 pick. You're going to have to pay a day 2 pick for Will McDonald. But I like that idea of Will McDonald, former Iowa State star. He's super fast off the edge. He's a little smaller than the Niners typically like in their, first and second down edge setting, run stoppers. But man, when you look at the space that Bosa and Huff have created inside for Mikel and Yatir Gross-Matos, I think that space is only there if you have a speed guy opposite Huff that really stretches that line. So like a Granderson, who's a great speed rusher, would be a fantastic get. Will McDonald, who's a great speed rusher, would be a fantastic get. Why? Because they would spread out that line, make those tackles flare out. The guards then have to flare out as well. And all of a sudden, Mikel Williams has way too much space for the guard to handle inside. Or Yatir Gross-Matos has way too much room to operate inside against a relatively unathletic guard, and those guys just toy with those guys if they have that kind of space inside. So that's what I would be thinking. See if I could get that impact speed guy. And, Mo Kamara and Kamon Rucker are two names to remember as well. Mo Kamara is on Tampa Bay's practice squad. He played at Colorado State. He's an excellent speed rusher. Kamon Rucker played at North Carolina. He's on the Ravens practice squad. He's 260 pounds, very productive rusher. These are speed rushers that are available if you just want to take them off of another team's practice squad and put them on your own roster. And I'd love to see what Chris Cassera could get out of Rucker or Kamara. Because, and those guys don't cost you anything, right? You just have to put them on your roster. It's not going to cost you a draft pick. You're not trading any of your draft capital. No players, no compensation. Just, hey, you know what? We're going to put this guy on our active roster. He's on your practice squad. So I think you may see them start there, see what they can garner out of that, that shopping aisle, and then turn around and see what they can get maybe in a trade. All right, let's do this. Let's talk a little bit about this matchup coming up in the next segment with Jordan Elliott. Jordan Elliott does an amazing job for NBC Sports Bay Area. He's going to join us next to talk Niners and Jaguars as we delve deeply into the matchup on this 49er Forecast Saturday on the Sports Leader.
KNBR, the Sports Leader.
did he almost make more progress than you had anticipated, considering he gets fully cleared on a Friday to play?
Not really. I mean, that was what we were hoping for. We knew it could go either way, but the fact that we even considered him to be an emergency guy last week, just talking to him on Monday and Tuesday, and it wasn't full on Wednesday or Thursday, but you could tell it was going that direction, and as long as he woke up today feeling good, we kind of expected it.
Faithful, time to make some Niners noise. 49ers Forecast with Larry Krueger now continues on your proud home of 49ers football. KNBR, the sports leader.
Welcome back. 49er Forecast on a Saturday. Larry Krueger with you. That was Kyle Shanahan talking Brock Purdy. Purdy's going to start at quarterback in week 4 for the 49ers. What a great weekend this has been so far. Congrats to my son's Northgate Broncos. The JVs took down Todd Husek's Menlo squad last night in the Creek, 20-7. Good win for the boys as Northgate runs their record to 5-0. And it was good to see Husek out in the Creek. All right, we welcome in Jordan Elliott, NBC Sports Bay Area football analyst, does a great job. He was with us last week, and he's back by popular demand, and he's with us on the Yuma guest line. Jordan, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, Larry. Always a pleasure.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you with us, and it's funny. I was looking at some of the betting props for the week, and the one that I like the most is Brock Purdy over 32 pass attempts. And I'm looking at the 49ers offensively, and I know the Niners, they've got the number 1 passing offense and the number 26 rushing offense. So, I think teams are loading the box, maybe not as much as they did on McCaffrey in 2023, but they're still they're creeping that 8th defensive player into the box and kind of daring the Niners to pass. And Shanahan the last couple of weeks has obliged. What kind of matchup do you see this week for the Niner offense going up against this Jaguars top-tier defense?
Yeah, I think that the thing that stands out about the Jags is that they do have a top 5 rushing defense in both yardage and touchdowns allowed. And so I think that they are a team that is going to load the box a bit. Their front 4 by itself is going to get a lot of penetration on their own. But I think they are really a team that's set up to force you to pass. And then once you do get in those obvious passing situations, they do have the guys up front to get after the quarterback. I think that Josh Hines-Allen has been a guy who's been a really good player for a few years in the league. It looks like Travon Walker is really taking that step after, getting taken first overall a few years back. He's starting to look like a player that was worthy of being taken that high. And I think really, the X factor in this game really does feel like the former 49er Eric Armstead, because he's a guy that really makes such a big difference when he kicks inside and he's able to defend the run. He can do it from the edge too, but when he kicks inside to that 3-tech spot, his ability to not only eat gaps, but also just get penetration and get in the backfield quickly really makes a big difference. And it was a huge weapon for the 49ers for, a number of years. And now they're going to kind of get a taste of what it's like having him on the other side this weekend.
It's a first-year defensive coordinator, Anthony Campanile. They're number 2 in EPA per play. They've got 9 takeaways in 3 games, 3 in each game. They had 9 takeaways all of last year. They lead the league with 7 interceptions in 3 games. Josh Hines-Allen, who used to be known as Josh Allen, has a 14.1 pressure rate. He's really good. Trayvon Walker was the number 1 pick in the draft way back when. They added Jordan Lewis from Dallas. He's got two picks and a fumble recovery. They're 6th in points per game allowed, 10th in yards allowed. They blitz 32.3%, which is mid-pack, 14th best. They're 9th best in pressure rate. Who do you see as the key guys? I kind of think I asked Shanahan if there was any common denominators in their 7 interceptions, and he's like, yeah, just that they're getting good rush up front, and the quarterback's having to make these decisions quicker than he wants to. But I think Jordan Lewis is a really underrated player. He was good in Dallas. I don't know if he's the greatest person of all time, but you know what? He's a hell of a player, and he's played really, really well. I think he's a guy to kind of account for if you're Brock Purdy when you're walking up to the line of scrimmage. Where is Jordan Lewis? But how do you see the matchup, and what do you think what do you think Shanahan's offensive game plan will be against this defense?
I think they definitely have to make an attempt to establish the run a little bit and take some of the pressure off of Brock, especially coming back in. As much as I think that he wouldn't be out there if he wasn't ready to go, I do think there is an adjustment period after missing a couple of weeks. And I think that the best way to get him back in rhythm is just if you can establish that run early, if you can start setting up some of those, easy looks off of play action, just get him into a rhythm early. You don't really need that explosive play right away. And I think if you're able to get Brock comfortable and not have him feel like he is, having to step in there and be Superman coming in off that injury, because while I do think he'll be okay enough to play clearly, it's a lot to expect that he would be anywhere near to his, full potential at 100% coming off that toe injury just 3 weeks ago. So I think whatever they can do to really alleviate that pressure off of Brock and just get those quick, easy completions near the line of scrimmage, something just to get him comfortable and let him feel like he has control of the game and not get in a situation early where you're pressing too hard and you are creating turnovers and giving that Jaguars offense a short field. Because while I think the Jaguars defense has been exceptional this year, I don't necessarily think their offense is striking fear into Robert Saleh and the Niners defense. And so I think, I don't think you want to approach it necessarily as just don't let, the Jaguars offense win this game by giving them short fields, but it really does boil down to which defense is going to come up with those big turnovers. And I think if you're able to limit those as the 49ers and play it a little bit more conservative early on, as the game goes on, I think Brock will get more comfortable and then those explosives will start to open up. We've seen Ricky Pearsall turn into a real weapon for the offense. And I think that a lot of those plays will be there later in the game, but I just think that the worst thing that could happen to the Niners offense is if they come out there on the first couple of drives and there's a big turnover in their own side of the field and you give that Jags offense a short field and some confidence.
Pearsall's battling some knee pain, but he says he's going to go. Demarcus Robinson returns from his 3-game suspension. He's a 9-year veteran, 250 career catches, 27 career touchdowns. I think he's going to help. He looked good all summer. The Niners offense, if you look at the numbers, they're 6th highest EPA on non-blitzes. When teams are not blitzing them, they look really good. When they've been pressured, they're 25th in the NFL in EPA per play when they're being pressured. What do you make of the line in front of the Niners? I mean, I threw out some of those numbers early, and they're pretty freaking ugly, to be honest. The 49ers offensive line, which, at times I think people have thought, oh, maybe it's actually a pretty good line. Well, I don't know. I mean, they can't run. They're 29th in run block win rate. They're 31st in stuffed run percentage. They're 22nd in pass block win rate. Greg Cosell watched their film this week and said, man, they're just not moving people up front. Now, Colby was hurt, but they're not looking good in the interior, and it's showing up in the red zone. McCaffrey's got 13 carries for 7 yards in the red zone. Has Pooney regressed? Is Colby playing hurt? Is Brendel not good enough? What do you make of the Niners' struggles in the interior?
I think that the first thing that stands out is, Colby making his first start and then playing through injury, because I think that last week there was a few plays on tape where he just didn't look right. And, if you're out there, there's no excuse. You have to make plays, and the players on the field will be the first to tell you that. He got a couple welcome to the NFL moments, I felt like, going up against Calais Campbell, who's been in the league for 18 years as, an all-pro player, and just one of the best interior defensive linemen in the last couple decades. And so, it's hard to judge off just one game, but, he allowed 5 pressures last week too in drop back situations. So it wasn't just that they weren't getting pushed in the run game. There also was a net negative when he was dropping back in protection as well. So, it's one of those things, Larry, where I just think you hope that with some experience and some time, you're able to gel a little more. I do think Pooney actually looked a lot better in week 3 than the first couple of games. There was a couple reps during the first couple of weeks where he kept getting beat with the swim move over the top. And I think that was something that maybe opposing teams were seeing on tape, because we saw it happen a couple weeks in a row. And so I think he's made an adjustment there. There was a couple times where he recovered really well when guys went back to that the second or third time in a game. And I think the thing that really jades the perception a little bit too is like Seattle's defense is really good. And I think if you look at the overall numbers for, pressures allowed and some of the run block win rate and some of those things, I feel like that week 1 game in Seattle really heavily impacts that given the 3-game sample size so far. So I'm interested to see if we give it a couple more weeks, if things tend to balance out just a little bit more. But you're right. If you're not able to run the ball, it doesn't matter what Brock Purdy's able to do. It doesn't matter what Ricky Pearsall is able to do outside. Like it's one of those things where you can't be one-dimensional in the NFL, no matter how talented your quarterback and your skill position guys are. And, at this rate too, you have to start getting concerned about the amount of touches that McCaffrey's already getting this early in the season. I think that even if he was coming off a year where he was fully healthy, you wouldn't want him touching the ball at the volume he is right now. And so the hope would be that if you're running the ball more efficiently, you're going to limit the amount of volume that he is receiving. So I think they have a chance to turn it around here in these next couple of weeks. But, there also is the reality that when you are starting a guy that's a rookie 7th-round draft pick, like you are going to have to deal with some growing pains. And I think that that's something that if you were an opposing defensive coordinator, you're probably going to try to target that weakness on the line with the least experienced guy there.
The Shanahan's always trying to achieve balance offensively. The Niners right now are 7th in yards per game, 23rd in points per game. They're 23rd. They're averaging 19.7 points per game, but they're 7th overall in yards. They average 361 yards a game. How do you see the Niner passing attack? I was looking at some of the numbers. Shanahan's offense is 10th in EPA against single high safety looks. They're 11th in EPA against 2 high safety looks. They've been getting a lot of the 2 high safeties. Pearsall is 10th in the NFL in deep pass EPA, so he's a factor, and I would imagine Demarcus Robinson will be a major factor. How do you see the Niners passing attack faring in this game against Jacksonville?
I think it'll definitely be better than it was. And I think that, like you mentioned, having Demarcus Robinson back is huge because I think it was a lot to ask them to have a, top-tier passing attack with the pieces they were missing the first couple weeks. I thought Kendrick Bourne for coming in and signing just before week 2, after not playing in the system for a few years, has performed admirably given the circumstances. But I think that, Demarcus Robinson is the first step to really starting to getting those horses back and getting those guys that you scheme this offense and you envision this offense thriving around during the offseason when you were putting this roster together. So I think having him back takes a lot of the pressure off of Pearsall too, because Pearsall's the guy where he's not only having a nice little boost here in his second season, like he's right now statistically one of the best receivers in the NFL, and he's doing that by winning in a lot of different ways. And I think that a lot of the little things that he's doing, breaking off of his stem a little early, like getting to a spot in the zone in a way that the quarterback can get the ball to him and then create yards after the catch. Like he's doing so many little things beyond just, the route running and the release and a lot of the things that'll stand out when you're watching live. He really has come into his own in his second year, and he really didn't get a proper rookie season for a number of reasons, as well as we know. So I expect the passing attack to definitely take a leap forward this week. And I'm a big Mac Jones guy. Like I believe he was dealt a pretty difficult hand in New England. I think that really stunted his development, and I think he is a guy that is a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. But I also think Brock Purdy is better, and I think that Brock Purdy coming back will just elevate the offense because of his ability to throw with a little bit more anticipation and his ability to create plays, off script on plays with his ability to extend with his legs. He's not a guy that's going to run for a ton of yards, but when you look at the way that he's able to evade pass rushes, keep plays open, keep his eyes downfield, and keep defensive backs having to cover for 5, 6, 7 seconds during a play, like it's just an entirely different skill set than what they've had with Mac Jones the last couple weeks. And again, I think Mac Jones has been phenomenal. He did everything you could have asked. I just think that there's a reason why Purdy is the starting quarterback, and you're going to see it this week.
Yeah, I mean, there's more dimensions to Purdy's game. I think they both process. I think they're both accurate. I think they both play on time. I think there are definite similarities. But Purdy's got that next level escapability that Jones just does not have. Let's flip the card and talk about the Jaguars on the other side of the ball, the Niners defense against the Jaguar offense. Now, this Jags lead the NFL with 10 drop passes. They had 6 last week, 3 by Brian Thomas Jr., it's interesting. It's like Lawrence, I would imagine Robert Saleh is going to blitz more without Nick Bosa. I mean, Nick Wagner had these numbers for ESPN. Bosa in 97 games with the Niners when they blitzed about 20% of the time. And then when the 18 games when they haven't had Bosa, they've blitzed about 31.9% of the time. And then you got Trevor Lawrence, who's been sacked this year, only 2.5% of his dropbacks, because that's the second lowest rate in the NFL. They're not allowing him to get sacked this year. He's getting the ball out quick. But if you look at the numbers, he's always struggled with pressure. Trevor Lawrence has thrown 13 interceptions when blitzed since 2021. That's the third most in the NFL. And he's not necessarily a high completion percentage guy. He's 55.8% completion percentage. That's the second lowest in the NFL. Only Cam Ward lower completion percentage than Lawrence. So the Niners haven't picked off a pass, by the way, since Isaac Yiadom in Week 11 of last year. So I don't know if we can project them to pick off a pass. But how do you think Robert Saleh goes about defending Jacksonville, considering Lawrence has a big arm, pretty good speed, a very strong running game, and, Brian Thomas and Hunter, he's got big weapons that are big play guys. Neither come into this game playing well, but that could change in a heartbeat. How do you see that side of the ball in this game?
They're going to have to get creative up front, and I think that's the number one priority, especially when you are getting into these 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, like obvious passing situations. I thought that on the fly they made some nice adjustments against Arizona last week. There was one rep where they had Bryce Huff standing up over the center, and I really like that because it gets one of your better athletes in a spot where a center is not as accustomed to dealing with a guy like that. We've seen Cleveland do that a lot with Myles Garrett, where they'll stand him up over a center in an obvious passing situation. And I think it just creates an uncomfortable mismatch for players that just typically aren't accustomed to dealing with that. And so I think between Huff and, Sam O, they do have guys that can win on the edge. I think Yeturgos Mato staying inside is probably best for just the success they've had. It'd be really hard to just kick him back outside and expect that same success to continue at the rate it has. They have two really athletic linebackers in Fred Warner and D. Winters too. So I think you'll see a lot of A-gap mugs from both of them. And I think you will see Saleh start to mix and match, sending both, dropping one, maybe dropping both, and just making Lawrence guess a little bit and having him be a little bit timid back there because, for all the potential that Trevor Lawrence has, and, like, as you said, he has a big arm, he has all these physical traits, we're going into what is now year 6 for him. And, it's the same stuff over and over again, where it's all about, potential, and this guy could be this, he could be that, but like, we haven't really seen him put it all together. And I think one of the reasons why is, as you mentioned, like when he's under pressure, those tools aren't as valuable because he's not able to maximize them and take advantage of them. So I would expect to see both of the linebackers play a pretty big role here. And I think one of the things that Saul has done that's been really good too is you guys have been afraid to send the defensive backs on pressures too. And I think that Upton Stout early on has been really good at not only timing his blitzes and doing a good job of disguising them, but when he's getting into the backfield, he's doing a really good job of winning against these running backs that are tasked with, marking him in pass protection. He has this really good hezzy move that he won with a couple times against the Saints, and he got his first sack in that game as well. So I would say the linebackers and whoever's playing nickel probably will play a pretty big role in determining the outcome of this, just because they're going to have to send those guys. I don't think you can count on just rushing 4 for 65, 70 snaps throughout this game.
Jordan Elliott with us on the Yuma guest line. One last one for you. I asked Kyle Shanahan, because he said, hey, Liam Cohn, he's really complimentary of Liam Cohn, and he really likes him. I said, what do you like about Cohn? And he says, he really, his offenses always include a strong run game. The guy's really good at running the ball. And I said, well, what makes him good at running the ball? And he says, he'll stick with it. He won't just, if it doesn't work right away, he doesn't just abandon it. He will stick with the run game. And the Jaguars bring a top 5 rushing attack into this matchup. And when I delved deeper into the numbers, what I found was that Jacksonville, when they run inside, they're running, when they run inside 68.9% of the time, 6th highest rate in the NFL. So they run between the tackles a lot this year, almost 70% of the time. They run 31% of the time outside the tackles, which is 28th in the NFL. But then when you look at their outside run, they're number 1 in the NFL at EPA on outside runs. And they got a pretty good two-headed monster in Trevor Etienne, who's averaging nearly 6 yards per carry, and the rookie from Vatech, Bashul Tutin, who ran 4.32 in the 40 coming out. So, Jordan, what do you see when you watch the film on Jacksonville's rushing attack? To me, that's where this game is won or lost. If whoever has in the rushing attack, whoever has more success running it at the other is going to win this game. And this could be a huge challenge for the 49ers. And probably the number one reason it makes me nervous is that there's a lot of speed here, and yet there's also some creativity in their run game, and I think their line's a little underrated. How do you see Jacksonville's rushing attack in this one?
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to attack the edges. Nick Bosa is such a good pass rusher that I think a lot of times that's obviously what's going to be at the forefront of people's minds when they're thinking about him. But he's also been one of the better edge-setting run defenders as a defensive end since his rookie year, really. And it's a skill set that goes vastly underrated when we are talking about edge players because it just isn't as glamorous as sacking quarterbacks and creating pressures. But I do think that that's an area where there's just going to be a natural drop-off with his absence there. And so I think if I am Jacksonville, I would try to target that outside. I would try to run the ball a bit to the edges and see if I can win that edge and force guys at the second and third levels to make plays, because I think the gaps are going to be there and there will be openings. But, one area for the 49ers you're really confident about is that your defensive backs have shown that they can eat that space really quickly. I think that Deommodore Lenoir is really, really good at setting the edge. That's a very underrated skill set for a corner, and I think him playing on the outside is extremely valuable on early downs because of that. I think Marquez Siegel had a couple of really big plays last week, including one on the Cardinals' final drive that helped enable the 49ers to get the ball back and have their own game-winning drive, where he triggered downhill really fast, and you saw that 4.3 speed in action. So I would expect this battle to be kind of decided in those gaps on the outside, in that open space, a couple yards upfield. And I think it'll really just come down to that two-headed monster that Jacksonville has make those guys at the second and third level miss, because I think those one-on-one opportunities are going to be there. But again, if you're the 49ers, I think you're feeling pretty confident that guys like D. Winters and some of these rookies that you've been starting in prominent spots like Siegel and Stout have shown that when they're left on an island, they can make those plays and they can make those tackles. And if they don't this week, it's probably going to be a really long afternoon because, like you said, Cohen will not shy away from running the ball and he will not get discouraged about running the ball. So it's one of those things where you're just going to have to be really disciplined for 60 minutes and ensure that when you are left on an island, you're doing whatever you can to make those plays.
Yeah, I mean, the things that stand out when you look at the statistical profile of the Jaguars to me is that they lead the NFL with 6 sacks. They lead the NFL with a +5 turnover differential. If that trend continues and they pick off passes and they win the turnover battle, they likely win this game. To me, it's probably going to be decided right there. How well can the 49ers take care of the football amid what could be some intense pressure off the edges from Trayvon Walker and Hines Allen? Awesome stuff. And we love rapping with you, Jordan. Have a great rest of your Saturday, and tell people if they want to follow you, where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow me on Twitter. It's @splash_cousin. I try to do my best every week, when I go through the film and, see some things and some patterns and some stuff that I like. I usually start with the defensive line, but I try to be equal to both sides of the ball. And so if you're interested in that sort of thing, you can definitely find my stuff there.
Awesome, man. Thanks for jumping on KNBR. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Larry. It's always a pleasure.
Jordan Elliott, NBC Sports Bay Area. As I said, one of the best young football minds, I think, in the Bay Area. Really enjoyable talking to him, and a guy who really likes to watch the film, get into a lot of the matchups, and he's a perfect guy to talk to on 49er Forecast. All right, we will take a timeout. We'll come back and wrap it up on the Sports Leader.
KNBR, the Sports Leader. faithful. Larry Kruger's rocking the red and gold as 49ers forecast continues on KNBR, the sports leader. Sports leader.
And we're coming down the home stretch on 49er forecast. Bill Lasky getting it revved up for a little Giants talk. Giants go against the Rockies today. Kyle Freeland against Justin Verlander. Verlander making his 29th start of 2025, looking for career win number 266. What a year it's been for Verlander and the Giants. 12:05 pregame, 1:05 first pitch, Giants and Rockies. And Bill Lasky's coming up next. He will entertain you and talk a little Giants ball and probably talk about what went wrong, what went right throughout the 2025 season. It is time for our 49er stat of the day. And here it is. It's a little betting nugget. We already gave you the betting nugget that we would go with. If you're going to wager on this thing, go with Brock Purdy. Go with Brock Purdy over pass attempts. I think 49ers are gonna once again, I think teams are going to load the box, try to make Brock Purdy beat them, and I think he'll have over 32 pass attempts. That's my guess. The Jaguars are coming off a win. They're 2-1. Niners are 3-0. But the Jaguars, did you know, have lost 7 straight games following a win. When they win, they typically don't follow it up with another win. They've lost 7 straight following a win, and they are not even covering in those games. They're only 2-5 against the spread in those 7 contests. So advantage 49ers, you would think. But I think that's where this game is won or lost. The key in this game, I think, is keep Brian Thomas down. He's awesome. He scored 10 touchdowns last year. This year, he's been a disaster, dropping balls left and right. He had 3 drops last week. He slept walk through the first 3 games, but he might be the NFL's best receiver. So don't let him bust out in this game. You know, Demo Lenore, Renardo Green, Upton Stout, whoever it's going to be, probably Demo, got to shut down Brian Thomas. If Brian Thomas has some monster, 12 catch, 145 yard, 2 touchdown game, I mean, the Niners are going to get their doors blown off. You cannot get that kid going. He has to be neutralized and muted if the 49ers are going to win the game. All right, that's going to do it for us. Enjoy Lasky. He's next. Thanks to Raph. Thanks to Jordan Elliott. Thanks to all of you. And we'll see you tomorrow on the pregame with Adam and Todd and Tracy and Tim Webb. Looking forward to that. Have a great rest of your Saturday on The Sports Leader.
KNBR, the sports leader. seam heads. Start cracking those peanuts and spitting those seeds, because gloves are soon to be popping.
He makes a headlong dive and makes the catch.
And bats are going to get cracking.
Blast one! Deep right field! Gone!
Welcome to KNBR's Giants Warm-Up.
Way back there! Goodbye!
On the Sports Leader.
Welcome into the KNBR warm-up show with Bill Lasky as we get you ready for that first pitch on the last Saturday of the 2025 season for the San Francisco Giants. Justin Verlander, the 42-year-old, will be making his last start of the year against Kyle Freeland, the left-hander from the Colorado Rockies. Last night, the Giants got that first win of a three-game series, 6-3, on a great performance by the rookie, Trevor McDonald, as he went 7 innings, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, no walks, 10 strikeouts, was pitching a great game till that 5th inning, gave up a base hit to Doyle, another base hit to Fulford, and all of a sudden, Ezekiel Tovar hits his first pitch, a hanging curveball, dead red center field, the only mistake that Trevor McDonald did, and it brought the Colorado Rockies back into the game as the Giants took a 5-0 lead with a home run in that bottom of the first inning by Willie Adames, the Willie Mack Award winner for 2025. Hit his 29th home run, and it gave the Giants a 2-0 lead. And then in the second inning, Elliot Ramos hit his 21st home run, a 3-run bomb after Jung-Hoo Lee got a triple, a walk to Grant McCray, and Elliot Ramos smoked that ball. The farthest ball hit so far in the Giants season of 2025, 440 feet out to left center field. An 0-2 hanging curveball. The Giants took a 5-0 lead, and as I said, the 3 runs in that 5th inning got them close. But boy, Trevor McDonald really pitched well in the 6th and 7th inning. He went a 1-2-3 6th inning with only 6 pitches, and he finished it out in the 7th inning with only 9 pitches. 89 pitches, 68 for strikes for Trevor McDonald, 18 first pitch strikes for 26 hitters, 5 ground balls, 6 fly balls. But what was most impressive was no walks. No walks and 10 strikeouts. If you remember his outing last Sunday against the Los Angeles Dodgers, he went 6 innings, 6 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. And if you look at both of them, how similar they were, he threw 89 pitches in that game, 60 for strikes. So 2 great performances for the 24-year-old from Mississippi. And then you start looking at the home run balls. Adames hitting 29th. Of course, everybody's hoping he hits 30. He'll be the first player since 2004 when Barry Bonds did it. And now tomorrow, Logan Webb takes the hill. He's looking to extend his strikeouts and be the first pitcher for the San Francisco Giants in years to lead the National League in strikeouts. He will have the most innings pitched. But today, Justin Verlander, tomorrow, Logan Webb, as the Giants are trying to get to that 81-81 mark to finish the season at 500. Today, I had great 2 interviews. I got to meet Trevor McDonald on Wednesday. I sat and talked to him a little bit about his outing with the L.A. Dodgers, how he prepared to pitch against the big, bad Dodgers, because, boy, they took the first 3 games from the Giants in that 4-game series. And we talked a lot about how he prepares for the game with Patrick Bailey and J.P. Martinez. And then I sat down with Justice Delos Santos. He covers the Giants as a beat writer for the Mercury News. So 2 good interviews coming up in this first hour, as we're only doing an hour pregame show before we knock it over to the Giants pregame show, and the game first pitch will be at 1:05. Let's take a look real quick at the Giants starting lineup as Bob Melvin, 79 and 81, put out there. Elliot Ramos will be hitting first. He's playing left field, hitting 258 on the year. Hit his 21st home run last night. He's got 69 RBIs. Rafael Devers is going to play first base. He's got 34 home runs, 107 RBIs. He's hitting 252 in the second hole. Willie Adames, 29 home runs, 86 RBIs, 226 on his year, playing shortstop. Matt Chapman hitting fourth, playing third base, 21 home runs, also 61 RBIs, 232 on the year. Wilmer Flores is going to DH today, getting probably his last start in a Giants uniform. 16 home runs, 71 RBIs, 241 for the season. Casey Smith will be playing second base, hitting 237, batting sixth. Jung-Hoo Lee batting seventh, playing center field. He's hitting 264 on the year. Gerard Encarnacion is going to play right field, hitting 208, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs. And then Andrew Kisner is going to be catching Justin Verlander, hitting .227, and he'll be hitting 9th. So the lineup is Ramos, Devers, Adames, Chapman, Flores, Schmidt, Lee, Encarnacion, and Kisner. All right, coming up next, my interview with Trevor McDonald as I sat down and got to know Trevor a little bit and what he liked about Mississippi and how he grew up. And don't forget, he loves to go frogging, so we'll be talking about that in the interview. I'm Bill Lasky. This is a Giants warm-up show on KNBR. More coming up right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
Giants fans. First pitch isn't too far away as KNBR's Giants warm-up continues on the Sports Leader.
Welcome back to the KNBR warm-up show with Bill Lasky. I'm sitting here at Oracle Park talking to a good guy, a good pitcher. Pitched a great game against Los Angeles. Has the next start coming up here against the Colorado Rockies. Let's welcome in Trevor McDonald. Trevor, how are you today?
Doing good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate your time. And, you know, I was looking at the media guide, and it had 1 day as your service time. So I looked it up, and, of course, the last day of the season last year, you got called up. You threw against St. Louis, 3 innings, no hits, 1 strikeout, 1 walk. How did that all come about?
The end of the season in AAA last year, I was sent down to Arizona. It's kind of like a stay ready camp, throwing some pins, doing that kind of stuff. And I had my flight home for that Sunday morning to go back to Mississippi. And Saturday night, I got the call that I was going up here. So kind of a whirlwind. You know, it all happened quick. Flew out late Saturday night, got in, played the noon game on Sunday, and then debuted, and then, you know, right after, flew back, you know, was going home.
The season was over.
Yeah, the season was over. So it's almost been like debuting again, coming up here this year and actually getting the full experience. So.
Well, Trevor, you said you grew up in Lucedale, Mississippi. Got drafted out of high school in 2019. And there was a story that you were on a senior trip on a cruise to Puerto Rico on a beach, and your phone call came in, and they said you got drafted in the 11th round. Tell me how that worked.
Yeah, a bunch of my classmates, we all went on a 7-day cruise for our senior trip, and that was the stop we were on that day. Yeah, we were just hanging out on the beach in Puerto Rico and knew the draft was going on and all. Happened to have cell service there when I got the call, so we all had a big celebration there at the water. It was neat. It was pretty cool.
Trevor McDonald joining me on the KNBR warm-up show. Now, when you're drafted 11th round, were you thinking about going to college? You had an opportunity to go to a South Alabama, I think it was. Mm-hmm. Were you thinking about going to college, or were you ready to go to pro ball?
I mean, it was kind of back and forth, but I was mostly ready to go to pro ball. Yeah, I felt like I would be in a better position, you know, developing in a pro organization, you know, and just getting that maturity and those reps with other pro players, you know, as opposed to college. And you know, I'm happy with the choice I made.
So as a pitcher out of high school, what did you develop in your repertoire of pitches? Your sinker, your curveball, outstanding. Mostly your sinker, good movement, fingertip control. What was that like when you came out of high school? Was that something you had already?
I mean, I had some natural arm side movement, but I didn't start throwing my sinker until probably partway through the year in low A in 22. And it was something that, you know, I had good potential, and then that off season going into the 23 season, I really kind of refined it, and it's gotten better over the last couple of years. But yeah, it kind of come along as I was in pro ball.
Movement on the pitch, it really dives down. You've got to stay on top of the ball, stay with your fingertip control. How do you advance to making it move over and over, where your pitch is down the middle, you can move it over a little bit? As a left-hander, you could chisel the outside corner with it. How much movement does it make for you?
It makes a decent amount. I really try to feel it come off my middle finger, you know, like you said, staying on top of it, and just getting that extension with it to give it that late life and that bite downward. Just try to keep it off the center of the barrel and get ground balls, and, you know, help me to go deeper in the game, getting quick outs.
Well, you started 2025 with the River Cats in Sacramento. Had a great year, 9-9, 142 in the third innings, 144 punch-outs. The home runs were up a little bit, but of course the Pacific Coast League, a fly ball sometimes leaves the ballpark. Yeah, what did you learn in your starts? Because, you know, you pitched a couple games, but you had 24 starts, 29 games. As a starter, what were some of the things you had to teach yourself to go in length of games?
I think really just attacking hitters. They're very selective down there with the ABS. You know, if it's not as much chase, because if it's not where they're looking, you know they can challenge it if it's off. So really just attacking hitters and focusing on getting ahead, and then also just kind of refining my mix to more, you know, the sinker, slider, changeup, as opposed to, you know, trying to mix in 5-6 pitches, and just getting based away with those, and then attacking and trying to stay ahead, and just, you know, the maturity on the mound, being in control. I think that definitely helped.
Trevor McDonald joining me on the warm-up show with KNBR. One of the things J.P. Martinez always talks about is strike one. You just kind of said it yourself. It sets up all your pitches. One of the things that you do and what you did in that game against the Dodgers, you attacked hitters. I was talking to Bryce Eldridge. He said, I love playing behind Trevor because he gets the ball in the zone. He's a fast-paced pitcher. Did you learn that about yourself, or did you kind of come into pack with that?
Definitely come into pack with that. I mean, especially early on in pro ball, just try to nibble around the zone, giving hitters a little more credit than I should have early on, as opposed to just, like you're saying, getting ahead and putting them in swing mode, and then you're able to expand. I think that's definitely helped me a lot.
How did you prepare in that last game against the Dodgers? A very tough lineup. You saw them play for 3 games before you got on the mound. A lot of maturity you did taking it into that game. What was your game plan on that?
They're a good game planning team, and, the majority of the year I've been pretty heavy, sinker early in the count, put away slider late. So just kind of tried to flip that a little bit, kind of just pitch them backwards, do something that's a little different than what I've been doing, mix in the cutter a few pitches.
Right.
The curveball, like you were saying, just kind of throw them off what the percentages have been all year.
When you sit down with Patrick Bailey before the game, do you adjust on what he's thinking, and then you adjust on what your pitches can affect that game plan?
Yeah, I mean, we have a group conversation about it. We have, we talk with the analytics side. J.P. Martinez has his input. I have mine. The catcher has his, and we just kind of form a game plan between all of us and get an agreement and then go forward. So,
a few more minutes with Trevor McDonald on the KNBR warm-up show. We got to talk about a couple of things that I read. Of course, frogging. That was a big thing in Mississippi. I love frog legs. I ate a lot of frog legs going in my life. Yes, I did. So they talk about you do it barehanded. You go by the riverbanks. Do you do flashlights? Is that how you pick them up? How do you usually grab them?
Yeah, we usually got a light bar on the front of the boat, and then, some Q-beams to spot them while we're going up and down different, sloughs, bayous, and stuff.
All barehanded.
Yeah, I mean, the only time I'll use the gig is if there's one that's just, up in some stuff that I can't get to or don't want to try to get to, maybe a snake or something in there, So, yeah, but I'm usually idle up on them, and then I'm off the front of the boat and give them a fair chance, Get them in my
so
hand.
you eat them. How do you cook them?
Fry the legs up. It's usually how we cook them or eat them, and that's about the only way I've had them. I've had them boiled before once, but
so in the time that you're in the big leagues now, and how do you adjust in the winter? What are some of the things in winter conditioning that you're going to start thinking about?
Say one more time.
Your winter conditioning. What do you think is going to happen in the next couple of months? You take a couple minutes off or a month off and move forward?
Yeah, I'll take a little downtime, let the arm, recuperate and all. I've thrown a lot more innings this year than I have in years past. And then, get back into it, start building up, and try to come into the spring strong and break with the team, hopefully.
Well, Trevor, as we finish up, good luck. I got a Colorado Rocky start coming up. Let's see if you can do the same thing you did against the Dodgers.
Yes, sir. We're going to try it.
That was Trevor McDonald on the KNBR warm-up show. More coming up right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
KNBR, the sports leader.
Well, if he could do it again here tonight, he could take care of the 30 home run mark tonight.
There you go.
3-2 pitch. Swinging. There's a high drive down the left field line. Way back there. It is hooking. It is a home run. Adios. Pelota right down the line into the tunnel. Number 29 for the Willie Mack Award winner for this year, Willie Adames.
Our KNBR Giants warm-up keeps rolling on the Sports Leader.
That was the home run of the week, and that was sponsored by Pacific Catch, the Bay's favorite seafood destination. That happened yesterday in the bottom of the first inning. Rafael Devers gets a walk, and Willie Adames takes the count to 3-2, gets a fastball, and hits a 94-mile-an-hour fastball right out to left field, 402 feet, and the Giants took a 2-0 lead. They never looked back after that. Elliot Ramos, of course, came in with a 3-run home run in the second inning, and the Giants win that game 6-3. Today, 105. First pitch, Justin Verlander, 28 starts this year. He's 3-11 with a 3.88 earned run average, 146 innings pitched, giving up 150 hits, 51 walks, 130 strikeouts, 14 home runs he's given up. But when you start looking at what he's done, and, of course, his last outing against St. Louis, he went 4 1/3, 9 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. But if you look at his starts before that, he had 5 starts. Arizona, the Dodgers, the Cardinals, Baltimore, and Cubs. And you look at these 5 starts, he went 31 innings total and only gave up 3 earned runs. Three of those games, he shut them out for 7 innings, 6 innings. But the way he's been pitching, he's been using all his pitches, the fastball, the curveball, the slider, good breaks on him, still throwing 95, 96. The 42-year-old wants to come back next year and pitch again. He's looking for that 300 wins. He's got 265 right now. So we'll find out what he prepares for with the Colorado Rockies. Now, the Colorado Rockies are throwing out Kyle Freeland. And if you remember his last start, he didn't get anybody out. Gave up a base hit and then a 2-run home run by Rafael Devers. Both benches erupted as Kyle Freeland starts screaming at Rafael Devers. And it turned into a little melee, but ever since then, Kyle Freeland's been pitching really well. He hasn't given up a home run in 4 starts. He's pitched against the Angels, Miami, the Dodgers, and San Diego. And when you look at the numbers, 25 1/3 innings he's pitched. He had 1 bad outing against Miami, but the other 3 was dynamic. He threw San Diego, had a no-hitter going into the 9th inning, ended up going 8 innings with 2 hits, no walks, 10 strikeouts. So it's going to be real interesting to see how this is going to play out in the bottom of the first inning when Kyle Freeland faces Rafael Devers. His numbers overall, 5-16 with a 5-point earned run average, 156 and 2/3 inning, 190 hits, 21 home runs on the year, and like I said, his last home run was against Rafael Devers in Colorado. All right, coming up next, I sit down with Justice Delos Santos. He's the Giants beat writer for the Mercury News. We talk about the Giants and some of the things that happened in 2025. I think the biggest thing is we want to know what's going to happen on Monday. Buster Posey is going to do a press conference. All the writers have been told that he's going to do a press conference. Will Bob Melvin return? Will he get that option taken care of as he signed that earlier in the year? And also some of the different things that are going to happen. Is Justin Verlander going to get an offer for a contract? Things that we'll find out on Monday, but the Giants are trying to win these last two games to finish 81-81, a two-game win streak they're on right now. And they're 40-39 at home. They're 39-42 away. Of course, those numbers won't change. 63-53 against right-handers. And today, with Kyle Freeland being a left-hander, they have not done well against left-handers. 16 wins, 28 losses. So we'll find out. 105 first pitch. So sit back. Justin Delos Santos and I sit down, and we talk more Giants baseball on the KNBR warm-up show right here on the Sports Leader.
KNBR, the Sports Leader. Welcome back to our KNBR Giants warm-up on the Sports Leader.
Welcome back to the KNBR warm-up show with Bill Lasky as we get you ready for that first pitch at 1:05 for the second game before the Rockies and Giants continue a three-game series. My guest, he writes for the Mercury News, covers the Giants, and he's a beat writer. Let's bring in Justice Delos Santos. Justice, how are you today?
Doing well, doing well. Appreciate you for having me. Appreciate you for having me.
Well, last night a couple things happened. Willie Adames gets the Willie Mack Award, and what does he do in the first inning? Hits a two-run bomb. And then after that, Elliot Ramos hits a three-run bomb. The Giants take a lead, 5-0 after 2 innings. And what a great performance by Trevor McDonald. What did you see in that last night's game?
Yeah, starting with Willie Adames, I think it was Bob Melvin after the game said that, after he got the ovation in Milwaukee, instantly hits a homer, the first pitch that he sees, does the same thing tonight with the Willie Mack Award. And he said that it was probably the most nervous that he's ever seen Adames, because it's one thing to be in the batter's box in front of 40,000 people. It's another thing to be in front of a podium and have to speak to those 40,000 people. So a little bit different for him, a little bit different speed. But he was able to kind of deliver there. He's obviously at 29 homers on the year. He's going to have 2 games left to break the homerless streak. Of course, Barry Bonds the last one to do it. Have 30 home runs in a single season since 2004. And Trevor McDonald had, another fantastic outing. He goes 6 innings and 1-run ball against the Dodgers. Last Sunday really puts himself on the map after that start, just given how great that Dodgers lineup is. And then backs it up last night with 7 just phenomenal innings, allows 3 runs on a 3-run homer by Ezekiel Tovar, but was able to, after that homer, ends his night by retiring 7 straight batters, strikes out a career high 10 batters. And so going into next year, he's really, put himself on the map here as far as spring training. It's a really exclamation point on his season, rather. And he's kind of gone, in a very short amount of time, to someone who hadn't really gotten any major league consideration, to someone who all of a sudden you're kind of looking at, like, where could he potentially, try to fill in and get himself a role on this team next year.
Well, Justice, today they turn to the 42-year-old Justin Verlander, and then tomorrow the ace of the staff, Logan Webb, to try to reach this 81-81 record. They're 79-81 with 2 games left, something that I think Bob Melvin and his staff, as well as the organization, would like to see, a 500 record with the up and down of this whole team and this whole schedule, and so many good games and then so many games that were disappointing. But what do you feel the last 2 games going into this final 2 games of the season?
Yeah, I think at this point, you're playing for pride. You do want to get to the 500 record and kind of just ensure that you don't end this season, with a losing record. Obviously, the best that they can do at this point is to kind of break even, which, considering the expectations they set for themselves during spring training, and especially considering the expectations that they had for themselves after the Rafael Devers trade, it's unquestionably a disappointment. And, if you went back to, I want to say it was sometime in mid-June when Casey Schmidt hits that grand slam off Yoshinobu Yamamoto. They tie the Dodgers for first place. And then 2 days later, they trade for Devers. If you go back to that point in time, you're thinking that this is a team that's destined to make a playoffs. And if you remember, that was a time when Willie Adames wasn't even hitting all that well.
Right.
And he was still trying to get his stride with the Giants. So to go from that a couple months ago, and even at the deadline when they were really spiraling and they were still somehow mathematically in it, and then even going back to when Patrick Bailey had the the walk-off grand slam. They go into that Saturday game in a virtual tie for the Dodgers, or not the Dodgers, with the Mets for third place. There's so many opportunities and so many ways you can look back at this season and say, this felt like a team that even through all the ups and downs had an opportunity to make the playoffs. And ultimately their season is going to end on Sunday. It's going to be the 8th time in the last 9 years that they haven't made the playoffs. I believe it's the 4th consecutive season without a winning record, obviously 500 or above 500. So, at this point, it would be nice to see that, nice round number of 500, but obviously, even as far back as 2 weeks ago, this was a team that thought they were going to be playing baseball beyond Sunday.
Justice Delos Santos joins me on the KNBR warm-up show. Let's dive into some numbers real quick, Justice, and let's look at the offensive numbers. Team batting average, 235 right now with 2 games left, 25th out of 30 teams. Home runs, 170. That ranks them 19th. RBI, 664, and runs scored, 697. Both of them number 17 out of 30 teams. Then you start diving in a little further. Stolen bases, 68. Once again, the Giants are 29th in stolen bases. These things have to be better. These things have to be cleaned up for 2026. What has to be done?
I think part of it is, it will be, I would imagine we see a better offense overall when we get a full season of Devers. I don't, obviously can't guarantee that Adames isn't going to go through that same 2.5 month stretch that he went through, because, he did say that, upon signing the largest contract in Giants history, that it definitely was a little bit of a struggle for him early on, kind of dealing with the pressure. So if you kind of eliminate those early season struggles for Adames, get a full season of Devers, get a full season Bryce Eldridge as well, and kind of see what they can do in free agency as well. I think that there is the blueprint for at least at the minimum an above average offense. The stolen bases is something that, going into spring training, it was one of those talking points. They wanted to be a lot more aggressive on the bases. In April, they were a lot more aggressive on the bases. Jung Hoo Lee in particular, he's personally someone that I thought was going to steal upwards of potentially 20 bases. I think he had maybe 4 or 5 in that first month. So the speed hasn't been like a real prominent part of their game. And what's especially confounding is you look at a guy like Juan Soto on the New York Mets. This isn't to, bring up the whole free agency thing with him, but, he doesn't exactly have elite level burners, but he's still able to steal 35 bases just off, getting good reads off pitchers. That is a lot due in part to former Giants first base coach Antoine Richardson. So there is I think looking forward, or kind of looking at the pieces they have, there is a blueprint for at least an average offense, especially when we get a full season of Devers, full season of Eldridge. But it will be interesting to see how they address the speed component of their game if they decide to implement a little more athleticism in their game, if they actually try to get a little more aggressive on the base paths next year.
Justice Logan Webb in a post-game show said, there's so much talent in this clubhouse. We just haven't excelled. We haven't played up to our standards. A press conference is going to be held on Monday. Buster Posey is going to talk to the press. Do you feel Bob Melvin will be coming back next year? And do you, if he does, what do you think he's got to change?
I do think that he is going to be coming back next year as we talk as of right now. Obviously, a lot of things can change between us talking right now and between the end of season press conference. But, it has been a really up and down year. I do think that it'd be a little tricky of a move to, give Melvin kind of that vote of confidence in, what was it, July, when they were in Arizona, and pick up the option for next year and then to go back on that. I think to do that in his first or Posey's first or technically second year as president of baseball operations, optically, it wouldn't be maybe the best look in the world, but it's also not a guarantee. As far as what moves that could be made, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some moves on the coaching front. I can't exactly tell you what those moves may or may not be. But, if we're trying to think of the ways that the Giants can pick up those little wins in the margins, I think that that's one way that if they don't move on from Melvin, that's one of the ways that they can kind of address it right then and there.
Justice Delos Santos, who covers the Giants through the Mercury, is joining me on the KNBR warm-up show. They always talk about the Giants being pitching and defense. Those are the 2 words you always hear about the explanation of the Giants. This year, the Giants had 94 errors going into these last 2 games, 23rd out of 30 teams. A lot of that was really defined when Matt Chapman got hurt, trying to fill in third base, trying to mix guys in. Casey Schmidt playing second base, a position he's not really played there that much. You got to look at first base. Rafael Devers now playing first base. You had Lamont Wade Jr. there. Dominic Smith did a great job before he got injured. What can the Giants do to clean up these errors?
I think one of the, looking at the defense as a whole, not necessarily errors in particular, I think one of the more fascinating decisions that they're going to have to consider going into the offseason is whether they move Jung-Hoo Lee off of center field and into a corner. Now, I don't know what his exact errors are, but if you look at some of the advanced defensive metrics, they don't exactly rate him out well. I know he had the error on Friday where he forgot how many outs there are, throws it into the stands. It's obviously kind of obviously a one-off, but looking long term, I think it's by either defensive run saved, routes above average. He just hasn't rated out super well. Now, obviously, I really doubt the Giants go into next year having either Drew Gilbert or Graham McCray as their starting center fielder, despite how good they are defensively, just because they haven't had the extensive track record. But I think that is going to be a consideration for them as well. And then some of those errors as well. Willie Adames, going back to him, it was a very rough stretch defensively to start the year. He's been a lot better since pretty much May. I think since May he's been a very above average defender at shortstop. So I think some of that might have been some maybe a little accumulation early season on, but I do think that, if we're looking at the defense as a whole and kind of making considerations as to what they could do next year, I think maybe potentially thinking about moving Jung-Hoo to a corner could potentially be something that elevates their outfield defense as a whole. It's obviously going to depend on who they're able to bring in. If they're not able to bring in anyone, then there's kind of no point in doing that. But it will be fascinating to see how that unfolds over the course of the offseason.
Justice, let's hear your opinions on some fun facts from the San Francisco Giants 2025 season. Best catch of the year. Is it Jung-Hoo Lee catching that ball between his knees in center field? Or do you think it was Mike Yastrzemski making a play, diving into the net and catching that ball? Two fabulous plays by the Giants.
I think as fun as the Jung-Hoo Lee one was, that wasn't intentional. Is kind of just circumstance. And honestly, if you kind of watch the replay, like if he moves his glove like 2 inches up, he's probably catching that clean. But I think the Yastrzemski one is the catch of the year if we're just narrowing it to those two, because that was really his final act as a Giant. That was the last game before the trade deadline. And obviously he doesn't know in that moment that that's going to be his final game. But, he's going full tilt into the stands, leaps into the stands. And obviously he wouldn't do that if the netting wasn't there. But, just it's the type of catch that, I think there's very few right fielders that would have confidence making. And to make that kind of be the stamp on his Giants career, I think that makes it definitely the catch of the year in that regard.
Well, Justice, the walk-off home runs, both of them were hit by Patrick Bailey. What did you think were the best one? The walk-off home run, the inside park home run, or the home run, the grand slam, hitting it off the Dodgers? One from the left side, one from the right side. Both of them were key hits, home runs, both of them, and they were both exciting.
They're both exciting for different reasons. And I also want to give some love to the Elliot Ramos Little League inside the park walk-off. I don't know how many teams have had a walk-off inside the park homer and a walk-off Little League in the same season, but the Giants might be on the short list. I think the Dodgers one, the walk-off grand slam, that was probably more consequential, I think, in that moment, because obviously that brings them within a half game back of that third wild card. Oh, it's so tough. I kind of want to I might change my opinion in 15 minutes, but as of right now, I want to give the edge to the inside the park walk-off, because it's one of those, there have been walk-off grand slams before. I think Yastrzemski had one in 2022 off of, I want to say it was Josh Hader. And the fact that it was the Dodgers, it does elevate that. But there is something different when you're watching the entirety of an inside the park or unfold. It was kind of the same thing with Angel Pagan, and I think it was 2012, 2013, where it's like you kind of hit that point where it's like, oh, is he going to get a triple? And then you kind of flip your mindset. It's like, oh, is he going to go all the way? And that was kind of the same thing with Bailey. Like as soon as it hit that concrete lip, everybody's thinking like, oh, is he going to be able to make it all the way home? And to really cap off, I don't remember if he slid head first or not, but I think just watching that entire scene, it's essentially 30 seconds of just this pure, raw, exhilarating feeling. So for all those reasons, I'm going to give it to the inside the park walk-off homer.
Well, it's always exciting to see a splash home run. Two home runs that I can remember was Mr. Smith himself. He hit one And it was rewarding for Dominic because he was such a Giants fan. He loved Barry Bonds. He loved to watch him play. And then Rafael Devers the other night hit one into the Cove. Both of these were dramatic home runs. Good for both of these players that have never played here before. Which one really excites you?
I'm going to give the edge to Dominic Smith for the reasons that you mentioned. He was obviously a very big Barry Bonds fan growing up, and we watched his highlights growing up. He had the opportunity a couple of years ago, actually, I think it was 2021, to do an interview with Bonds. So I think it was maybe 36, 37 splash hits that Bonds had. So for Dom Smith to now have his name on that list, aside from Bonds, given the relationship that they have, given how much he looked up to Bonds, I think that's something pretty special.
Well, Justice, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate you jumping on, and continued success as you cover up the Giants this year and possibly next year. But thanks for your time again.
Oh, the plan is to be here next year. So appreciate you having me on, and let's talk next year.
I'm all for it. That was Justice Delos Santos, who covers the Giants through the Merc. More coming up right here on the KNBR Warm-Up Show on the Sports Leader.
KNBR, the Sports Leader. We're getting you in the mood for a crazy crab sandwich, some garlic fries, a cha-cha bowl, and some orange and black baseball. KNBR's Giants warm-up keeps rolling on the Sports Leader.
All right, welcome back to the KNBR Warm-Up Show as we get you ready for that first pitch at 1:05. 2 games left for the San Francisco Giants. They need 2 wins to get to the 81-81 mark. And, boy, what a great game yesterday was with the 2 home runs by Adames as well as Ramos. But we always forget about this. In the 5th inning, Bryce Eldridge came up with a runner on third base with 1 out and had a nice sac fly to right field to get his 4th RBI for the season. I want to thank both my guests today, Trevor McDonald and Justice Delos Santos. Both of them keyed up for me today for the warm-up show. If you missed either one of those, you can catch it on all KNBR podcasts. Tonight, during the extra inning post-game show, caught up with Will Clark and Marvin Bernard. Of course, Marvin Bernard was a Willie Mack Award winner. Talked a lot about him and his relationship with Willie McCovey. And, of course, Will Clark gives us his take on the season and some of the things he liked, some of the things that he thought there'd be cleaned up. So join me on the extra inning post-game show after the game today. All right, let's take a look at the starting lineups for both the Colorado Rockies and the San Francisco Giants for the Saturday matinee. The Rockies, 43 wins, 117 losses for the manager Warren Schaefer, and here's his lineup. Starting out playing right field, hitting first, Mickey Moniak, a 270 lifetime or 270 hitter this year. Batting second, the catcher, Hunter Goodwin, the all-star for the Rockies, hitting 276 on the season. Blaine Krim, the first baseman, is going to be batting third, 228. Ezequiel Tovar will be playing shortstop. He's hitting 256. Of course, he hit a 3-run home run last night. Jordan Beck is going to be playing left field. He's hitting fifth for the Rockies, 260 average for the year. Brenton Doyle playing center field, batting sixth, hitting 231 on the season. Kyle Karros, Eric Karros' son, playing third base, hitting 226, batting seventh. Bernabel, his name is Warming Bernabel. I'm telling you, Warming, that's his first name. He's DHing for the Rockies, hitting 258, hitting eighth. Ryan Ritter will be playing second base, hitting 247, batting ninth, and he'll be at second base. So it's Moniak in right, Goodwin catching, Krim first, Tovar shortstop, Beck in left field, Doyle in center, Karros at third, Bernabel DHing, and Ritter will be playing second base for the 43-117 Colorado Rockies. Boy, a disappointing season for the Colorado Rockies. Let's go to the home team. Bob Melvin, 79-81 as the Giants try to get a 3-game winning streak. They're on 2 games right now. 9-2 against the Rockies this year. Let's take a look at the lineup that Bob threw out there. Elliot Ramos hitting first, playing left field, 258 on the season. 21st home run yesterday. He's got 69 RBIs for the season. Rafael Devers at first base this year. This game, he's hitting sixth, or hitting second, hitting 252. 34 home runs, 107 RBIs. Willie Adames, the Willie Mack Award winner, 2025, playing shortstop, hitting third, 226 on the year. 29 home runs and 86 RBIs. He needs one more home run to get to that 30 mark. And boy, I think Giants fans, as well as all of us, want to see if that can be obtained by Willie in the last 2 games. Matt Chapman hitting fourth, playing third base, 232 on the year, 21 home runs, 61 RBIs on the season. Wilmer Flores, a good Giant, could possibly be one of his last 2 games in a Giants uniform. Wilmer's hitting 241. He's going to DH today, batting fifth, 16 home runs, 71 RBIs on the year. Casey Schmidt, hitting sixth, playing second base, 237, 11 home runs, 37 RBIs. Jung-Hoo Lee out in center field, batting seventh, 264 on the year, 8 home runs, 53 RBIs. Gerard Encarnacion is in the lineup today, batting eighth, playing right field, 208. He's got 2 home runs and 7 RBIs. And Andrew Kisner is going to catch Justin Verlander today. He's catching, batting ninth, 227, 1 home run, 5 RBIs. So it's Ramos in left, Devers playing first, Adames at shortstop, Chapman at third, Flores DH, and Schmidt at second, Jung-Hoo Lee in center, Encarnacion in right, and Kisner behind the plate. Justin Verlander on the hill today against Kyle Freeland. Justin Verlander, of course, the 42-year-old, going after his 28th start this year. He's 3-11, the 3.88 earned run average. When you take a look at what he's done in his last 6 starts, since August 26, 2-1 with a 1.78 earned run average, 7 earned runs in 35 and a third innings, 31 strikeouts. If you take that last start away when he pitched against St. Louis, he had 5 starts, 31 innings, only gave up 3 earned run. He has been pitching dominant the second half of the year and consistent, and I think that's one big word that we've been waiting on Justin Verlander. The wins and losses, of course, didn't score a lot of runs, but boy, the second half he's definitely turned it on for the orange and black. Colorado Rockies will have Kyle Freeland on the hill today. The left-hander's 5-16 with a 5-point earned run average. The 32-year-old, 156 and 2/3 inning, giving up 190 hits, 87 earned runs, 21 home runs, 37 walks, 120 strikeouts. The last home run he gave up, if you remember this, Rafael Devers hitting that home run in the first inning. He didn't get anybody out in that game, and Devers and Freeland got into it a little skirmish. Freeland got tossed. He didn't get anybody out, but his last outing against San Diego, 8 innings, had a no-hitter going. Ended up only giving up 2 hits. The Dodgers, he faced them, went 5 2/3 inning, only giving up 1 earned run his last outing against the Los Angeles Angels. He went 6 innings and they only gave up 1 earned run. So a good start coming up here. See if the San Francisco Giants can keep this win streak going. Coming up next, Brian Murphy on this date in Giants history, and we'll be right back with a Giants pregame show right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
It's the penultimate game of the 2025 campaign. It's the Giants and the Rockies. The Giants, who took the first game of the series last night 6-3, will send Justin Verlander to the mound, who owns a 2.57 ERA since July 23rd. The Rockies, they'll send the Giants' old friend Kyle Freeland to the mound. Remember, he incited the melee in Denver earlier this month. Will there be more drama today? Will Willie Adames hit his 30th home run? We shall see. I'm FP Santangelo along with John Miller. It's day baseball on the radio, and the Giants pregame show starts right now.
Hey, everybody, it is September 27th in Giants history, our final Saturday on this date in Giants history. So let's celebrate with a win from 2011 with some fun home runs. All right, let's just have some fun. Giants were taking on the Colorado Rockies, giving the ball to Madison Bumgarner. Let's go. Usually good things happen. We go to the bottom of the fourth. Giants are leading 1-0, one on, and up steps this brand new kid named Brandon Belt.
White pitches. And Belt hits a high, deep drive to right field. This one is crushed. It is into San Francisco Bay. That's the first splash home run of Brandon Belt's career, and that was a shot. It's 3-0 Giants, and it's the 9th home run of the year for Brandon Belt.
Yeah, cool to hear young Brandon Belt hit one into the water, his first, the 60th splash hit at what was then called AT&T Park. But we're not done. We go to the bottom of the seventh. Giants are winning 5-0. And you guys remember Connor Gillespie? He had a couple of big swings of the bats for the Giants. This one was fun because he decided to do it the hard way.
Gillespie swings and drives one to deep right center field. That ball is really hit well. It sails right over the head of Wigginton, bounces on the track, up against the wall, and takes a carom away from Wigginton. Coming around third pill, he scores. Gillespie comes around third and he falls down. Gets up, he's still going to try to score. Pacheco picks up the ball. He throws home. Gillespie slides in safely.
Is the inside the park home run the most exciting play in baseball? Definitely you could make an argument for it. Dave Fleming on the call. Gillespie with the inside the Parker. Giants take a 7-0 lead. They would win the game 7-0. And Madison Bumgarner did his thing. 7 shutout innings, 9 strikeouts. That's it for our final Saturday this date in Giants history. That was September 27, 2011. And this has been Brian Murphy with this date in Giants history.